When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject: Mr. Kelly's Forest. User: MC55JXC. Posted December 18th, 1999.
For months now, there's been a missing poster on the telephone pole across from my house. Every couple weeks, a short, heavy-set woman in a long yellow coat comes to replace it. From her age and the ring on her finger, my guess is that the man whose photo is on those posters is her husband. She's out there now, hands shaking, eyes rimmed red. Each time she appears, an urge rises in me to march out my front door and tell her the truth. It's clear to anyone paying the smallest amount of attention that she's in pain. Would it be alleviated by knowing her husband didn't choose to go? Experience has taught me that bad news is vastly preferable to the suspended animation of waiting for it to arrive. But in order to explain why her husband is never coming home, I'd have to admit I was there when it happened. When Mr. Kelly's forest came to take him away. When I was in the 3rd grade, Mr. Kelly was my teacher. A new arrival at our school, he was strange to us, short and wiry with a shock of bright red hair and an accent we'd only ever heard on television. Mr. Kelly was Irish and spoke with a lilt that small-town ears like ours had a hard time differentiating from that of the English. I'll tell you, that was a mistake you only ever made once. Growing up where I did, most folks were big and broad, so you wouldn't think that a read of a man like Mr. Kelly would be much threat, and you'd be wrong. The tiny Irishman had a steel spine, and while it always let a person's first incorrect identification of his nationality slide, if you did it again, he would go up one side of you and down the other. The Irish are not English, Mr. Kelly would say, and they never would be. He told us there was a war being fought on the streets of his country to establish just such a point. Don't mistake what I say as an indication that Mr. Kelly was loud or boorish, because he wasn't. By and large, he was a soft-spoken man with an irrepressible love of knowledge. In between lessons on arithmetic and American history, the Irishman would tell stories from his homeland, sometimes in the form of legends and other times in beautiful, sad songs which, even at that age, struck a chord deep inside me. He would also teach us about nature, the parts of it we could see and the parts we couldn't. He said that in America, we had drifted away from our relationship with the spirits of the land, and it was important to remember this didn't mean the spirits were gone. The forest, he would say, is more than greenery. Just because they've bulldozed the trees and chased off the animals doesn't mean it's been conquered. The forest remains beneath us, and those who once called it home now own these streets as surely as they did the glens. Statements like these enchanted me. At recess and lunch, while the other kids my grade were outside playing, I often stayed behind to ask Mr. Kelly more questions. Who were the people who walked the land before us? What did they look like? The day I asked that particular question, Mr. Kelly's patient smile briefly flickered downward. He appeared to be mulling something over. Then, after a brief glance around the class, leaned forward conspiratorially. It's not polite to ask such things. You never know who's listening. Remember these 2 rules and you'll be golden. 1, never go looking for them. 2, if the forest ever goes quiet, get yourself down on the ground, turn out your pockets, and stay that way till the world breathes again. Do you understand? The image of a green world teeming just below the asphalt remained with me for years. Even in the biggest cities and the busiest intersections, each sprig of grass poking through the shattered concrete was a reminder that Mr. Kelly's forest was never far away. In those moments, his advice would ring out in my head, and I would ignore the tickle at the base of my spine, which tried to tell me I was being watched. Even when I could practically feel the forest beneath my feet, I feigned ignorance, eyes forward, seeing only what I was meant to. Where I live now, transit isn't great, but it's better than most cities in this country. Buses running late are just part and parcel of the experience, and you get used to standing under slate gray skies, hoping you'll get where you're going before the rain finds you. On the day I watched the missing man walk away, there was no reason to think it strange that number 74 hadn't arrived on time. It was just the 2 of us at the bus shelter, the air heavy with the promise of thunder. The man was my height, broad shoulders, his rounded chin covered in stubble. He was talking into one of those mobile phones, having a conversation I was trying my best not to hear. It was this, I think, my attempts to give the man privacy by straining to hear anything else, that allowed me to feel the silence. No traffic passed us, either on foot or in the street. There were no honking horns, no screeching brakes, no sound at all, like the corner where we were waiting had been hermetically sealed off from the rest of the city. Next to me, the tone of the man's voice grew annoyed. Lee, you there? God damn these fucking phones. 3 failed redials later, he stared at the non-functioning hunk of plastic in his hand like he was trying to will it into compliance. I couldn't help glancing over at it, and when I did, an emerald ring on his little finger caught a glimmer of the day's drab light. That brief green flash resurrected the memory of Mr. Kelly's words. If the forest ever goes quiet, get yourself down on the ground, turn out your pockets, and stay that way till the world breathes again. The forest had just done exactly that, and a lifetime of social convention went out the window as I dove for the sidewalk, turning out my pockets so fast my keys launched somewhere off into the distance. A mobile phone man let out a confused laugh before the scent of burning grass overtook us. Without meaning to, I drew it deep into my nostrils, where it shook loose a long-buried childhood memory. A summer evening, the sidewalk still warm with the heat of the day, my father was kneeling on the lawn as a twist of flame sprung up from his lighter. He was singeing swaths of dead lawn, chuckling to himself as the tiny pyres raced across the yard, extinguishing themselves once their fuel had been consumed. A soft rain of orange and black embers floated to the ground around me. One landed on my outstretched hand. I grit my teeth against the sudden pain. Instantly, I was back in the presence bell jar silence, cheek pressed hard into warm concrete. My burned hand stung. Against my better judgment and Mr. Kelly's advice, I raised a single eyelid. To my surprise, the falling ashes were real, blown from a smoking pile of greenery atop a bier itself held aloft by 4 tiny men dressed in rags. Before and after them swayed a line of similarly dressed figures, all no more than 3 apples in height. Their backs were to me, so I couldn't see their faces, only the portions of their narrow backs not covered by their simple garments. As they moved further into my direct line of sight, I could see the top of another's head, unmoving beneath the smoldering grass. It was a corpse, and this is its funeral procession. I watched as the entire line of mourners disappeared around the corner, the swaying form of mobile phone man bringing up the rear. Outside, the woman in the yellow coat finished stapling up her fresh poster. This time, I made it as far as the front door before losing my nerve. How could I possibly tell her that the last I saw of her husband was the frozen look of horror on his face, his body moving to a rhythm he couldn't understand as he disappeared forever into Mr. Kelly's forest?
— Subject: The Crate, Part 1. User: Z072PD1. Posted June 12, 2000.
They say it's a gas leak. They say it's mold, an allergic reaction, seasonal migraines. They say a lot of things, but I know the truth, and today's my last night on shift because of it. The museum reopens in a few weeks. New banners, new brochures. Hell, they've even got a big old gala plan, but those fuckers didn't get rid of the thing. They didn't even move it, just rebranded Gallery 9 as the donor wing and wrote up some bullshit about an immersive historical artifact. Yeah, I'd say it's immersive, all right. So now they're throwing a reveal night for it. Wine and violins and all the people who fund this rotting place smiling for the cameras. Then they'll lift the cloth and let everyone look. Shit is gonna hit the fan, my friend. You wait. I know I sound bitter. After all, I'm losing my job, but the truth is, I'm bitter because of the inhumanity of it and my inability to help. No one will listen to me, so here I sit in the security booth, flipping through the grainy black and white monitors, chain smoking, watching, and waiting. And yeah, even now, something's moving in Gallery 9. Yet there ain't no motion sensor trip, no door chime, but I got no doubt it's there 'cause every few minutes, The camera glitches, just a twitch, and I see it. The shadow crouched low in front of the case, head bowed, kneeling, a smoky, unformed, unrealized thing that seems to exist but also doesn't. I wasn't there when the delivery got there. I missed it by an hour, thank God. When I clocked in that night, the crate was already sitting under a tarp, heavy and sweating through its wood even though it was freezing cold outside. There were no shipping labels, no custom stamps, just one word carved deep into the crate's side. Not English, not anything anyone recognized. The kind of letters you feel in your teeth when you try to sound them out. They stuck it in Gallery 9 and locked the doors, told us to stay out unless absolutely necessary, told us it was sensitive. Within a week, people started getting sick. First, it was headaches, docents complaining about migraines, the maintenance guys getting dizzy walking past the door, and then it got worse. Nosebleeds, shaking hands, blacking out mid-shift. 3 staff members had to be hospitalized. One of the curators collapsed in the hall, and that's when I saw it. He had blood running from his eyes like melting wax. I watched in horror as he lay there wiping at his face, screaming and crying for help. But you know what they told everyone, right? They said it was hypertension, said it was stress, and offered us all counseling. That night, I stood outside Gallery 9, key in hand, thinking about going in. I knew it was the cause of the chaos, and I just wanted to see just for a second, but I quickly changed my mind when I saw that smoky apparition, that creature form up behind the frosted glass, slow, wet expansions against the air. A vibrating cloud of darkness I honestly don't think I'll ever be able to explain. The next day, management held a meeting, told us there had been a minor chemical leak, promised new ventilation, handed out flyers about radon exposure, and said it was handled. Eventually, I started dreaming about it. The first night, I was standing in the museum alone. The lights were buzzing like flies, all the paintings crying black tears, and there were slow knocks reverberating out of the walls. The second night, Gallery 9 was empty, but something was hunched at the center, gnawing on its own shadow. When it looked up at me, its smoky face was a ring of blood-slicked eyes, all of them smiling. Third night, I was one of them, kneeling in the dark, arms out, mouth open wide enough to tear. That's when I woke up with a blood stain on my pillow. When I told management about it, they said it was allergies. Well, I knew better, and I wasn't taking any of that bullshit. I saw what happened to the curator, watched that blood coming out of his eyes, watched the horror he experienced. So you know what they fucking did? They fired me. They fucking fired me. Said they were going to be closing down the museum to prepare for the gala and offered me a severance package if I stayed on until the reopening. Now, I ain't exactly a rich man, and without this job, I have no way to get medical help, so yeah, I agreed, and here I am. But damn it, look, something bad is about to happen, and I'm scared that it ain't just me who's gonna get hurt.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.